I'd like to welcome everyone to the February 13th, 2024 meeting of the Johnson City Regional Planning Commission. If you're here to speak during the public hearing of a portion of the agenda, please wait until I open the floor for that public hearing. And then if you'd let me know by raising your hands and come to the podium, please give us your name and address at the podium, spoken clearly so we could get that on the record. And then each person will be allowed 3 minutes to speak, and we'd ask you please direct your comments to us, not to the audience and not to staff. We'll take into account all that you have to say. I'll now call the meeting to order at 2 minutes after 6. Vice Mayor Murphy, would you please lead us in an invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, sir. Let us pray. Father, we are gathered here today to conduct the business and the affairs of this great city we know as Johnson City. Please lead us and guide us, and things that we are to do may be pleasing unto your sight. In Jesus' name, amen. Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. I want to take just 1 second to make a brief announcement to the community. On February 29th, there will be a meeting at Indian Trail School in North Johnson City. The topic of the meeting is the growth plan for Johnson City called Horizon 2045. The meeting is scheduled from 5:30 to 7 o'clock. All the public and all the community is invited to attend so we can collect your interest and input into developing our new growth plan that should help us plan for till 2045. Okay, thank you very much for that, allowing me to do that. All right, we have an agenda before us. Do have anybody have any changes to the agenda, any changes in order, or any additions?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All right, I've got a motion to approve the agenda and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. Okay, we have the minutes from the January 9th meeting of 2024. Does anybody have any adjustments, corrections, or changes to ask for there?
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion to accept and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. All right, now we're coming to the public comment section of our agenda. I think I have 3 requests to speak during public comment. Mr. Craig Lewis, are you here? Mr. Kylie Harrison, are you here? I suppose that's a Mr. I'm sorry, I don't know.
Kylie was not able to make it.
Okay, thank you very much. Travis Wolven, is that person here? Thank you very much. I understand the topic you want to speak to is the rezoning. You're welcome to speak now, and you can have 2 minutes to speak from the podium, or you can defer to speak now and speak during the hearing on that particular topic. What's your preference?
I'll speak in the hearing. Same.
You'll speak in the hearing for that specific topic?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a piece of business that the Planning Commission has to do once a year, and that's to elect officers. We have 4 offices that have to be filled in February of every year, so the first office to be filled is the chairman. I'd like to open the floor for nominations for chairman.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to nominate you to serve another term, if you will accept that nomination. I think you've done a fantastic job for us in the meeting, and I know the tremendous amount of work that you do behind the scenes as well with the city. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Do I have a second?
Second. Second.
All right.
Third, fourth.
I have a nomination and a second, and I accept the nomination. I'm happy to serve. I do enjoy it, and it's an opportunity for me to give back. Do I have any other nominations? All right, hearing none, I'll close the floor for nominations. Ms. Lawrence, would you call the roll?
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Commissioner Dutton?
Yes.
Commissioner Rhodey?
Yes.
Commissioner Whitfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Oceanbine?
Yes.
And Chairman Dagenhart.
Thank you very much. I really do appreciate your confidence in me. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Ben Dutton as vice chairman.
Okay, the floor is now open for nominations for vice chair, and I hear a nomination for Ben Dutton for vice chair. Do I hear a second?
Second.
I would be thrilled to accept the nomination and serve with you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Do I have any more nominations for vice chair?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Commissioner Ashenbaum.
All right, Mr. Oceanbine, you've been nominated. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second for Sean Oceanbine to be voted in for vice chair. Any other nominations? Okay, I think the order we'll do this is the first nomination first. We'll call the roll to vote yes or no on that nomination, and that would be for Commissioner Ben Dutton as vice chair.
Correct. Commissioner Aldridge.
You have to call me first.
I'm sorry.
Gosh, this is it's tough because both of you guys are awesome. And I think, either one of you would do a fabulous job. So eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Who are we voting on first?
Dutton first.
Is it yes or no?
Can we vote yes on both of them?
He can run the
Thought I'd
clock.
try. Yes.
Commissioner Bailey.
Sorry.
No.
Commissioner Cooper.
I second Commissioner Aldridge's comments. I mean, this is about as, with maybe a couple of exceptions, about as powerful a group as I've ever been around, and the leadership from each individual's just been superb. But I'll just, if nothing else, because I nominated him, I'll have to say yes.
Commissioner Dutton.
Yes.
Commissioner Rhodey.
No.
Commissioner Whitfield.
Yes.
Commissioner Williams.
No.
Vice Mayor Murphy.
I think these two gentlemen who have been nominated will do an exceptional job. I think the role of a planning commissioner is one that we hold to high regard because they volunteer their time and their service. Regardless of what role you play, you still get one vote. And no, we chose to stay with our chairman, Mr. Dagenhart, and just to keep things consistent, I will keep my vote with Commissioner Ashenbine. I would believe that Commissioner Dutton would do an exceptional job, but just to keep it consistent, to go with the decision we've made to keep our chairman, I would elect to keep our vice chairman as well,
So that's a no vote, is that correct?
just for consistency, yes.
And Vice Chairman Oceanbine.
I think Commissioner Oceanbine, I believe. I'll put.
That was a prophetic statement.
Yeah, correct. That's okay. You're fine.
Y'all making me nervous.
That is true.
So, is that I guess a no. So-
Yeah, that's a no.
And Chairman Dagenhart.
Yes. So what's the vote?
We're at 5-5.
Yep.
Okay, so do we need to call a vote on the second nomination?
Chairman brings the time.
No, there's
It
five.
doesn't matter, it's gonna be last.
Doesn't matter.
It's 5-5.
So we need to call a vote for the second
Yes, we
nomination.
need to move to the second nomination.
And before we take that second nomination, I just want to thank everybody for serving. It'd be good if one of you all bow out so that we can get on with our meeting, with all due respect. But this is not a position that we should be lobbying for. This is a volunteer service. It's not like you're going to get paid any more money. But you don't get any more notoriety, but we do thank you for your service. So
Yeah, I will happily defer to Commissioner Oceanbine in this respect. Sean, I think you've done a great job.
That's nice. I appreciate it, Commissioner Dunn. Thank
Okay,
you.
so we need to still have a vote on the nomination.
Yes, we did.
Cool. Any
So
other
we'll
comments?
call, why don't you call the vote for the next person, I'll change mine, so.
All right, that's what I just did, call for the vote.
Yeah, we'll call for it.
What are we doing?
We're making sausage as well.
Yeah.
We're voting,
We're going to vote now for Commissioner Oceanbine. All right.
It has been withdrawn.
Ben's resolved.
Well, then,
But for the record.
okay,
Okay. Commissioner Aldridge.
yes.
Commissioner Bailey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper.
Yes.
Commissioner Dutton,
Yes.
Commissioner Rhodes,
Yes.
Commissioner Whitfield,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy,
Yes.
Vice Chairman Oceanbaum.
Yes.
Chairman Dagenhart.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, sir, for serving.
Chris,
Yes,
may
ma'am.
I add one comment? This goes along with what Aaron has said. There's not one person who sits on this commission who is not ethical and highly qualified. And it is a pleasure for me to have worked with all of you.
Absolutely.
And most people do not understand the amount of hours that go into this commission outside of the job that's done. And I'm proud to be a part of y'all. I really am.
Thank you very much for that comment. All right, we have the position of secretary, which is currently occupied by McKinley Rd, if I'm correct.
Let's go.
So we need to open the floor for nominations for secretary.
I nominate Commissioner Rhodey to take that responsibility again this year.
A
I second.
All right, I have a nomination, a second. Mr. Rhodey, do you care to do that?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Any other nominations? All right, I'm going to close the floor of nominations. Can you please call the roll for secretary?
Commissioner Aldridge.
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper.
Yes.
Commissioner Dutton.
Yes.
Commissioner Rhodey.
Yeah.
Commissioner Whitfield.
Yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Oceanbaum.
Yes.
Chairman Dagenhart.
Yes.
Okay.
Now we have this position of assistant secretary.
Commissioner, I'd like to nominate Mr. Bob Cooper, please.
A second. All right, I have a nomination and a second for Mr. Bob Cooper. Would you accept the nomination? Are you accepting the nomination, Mr. Cooper?
Yes, yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any other nominations? Floor is closed for nominations. Ms. Lawrence, would you please call the roll for secretary, or assistant secretary?
Commissioner Aldridge.
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper.
Yes.
Commissioner Dutton.
Yes.
Commissioner Rhodey.
Yes.
Commissioner Whitfield.
Yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Oceanbaum.
Yes.
Chairman Dagenhart.
Yes. I want to thank everybody on this commission. I want to echo what my friend, the commissioner at the end said. This is a very hardworking group. You don't really know what you're going to get yourself into until you're here. And everybody who's here has stepped up and is doing a fantastic job. I'm proud of everything you do. I'm proud of everything you say, and I'm proud of being part of this group. Thank you for your service to Johnson City. Okay, let's move on to our agenda, our new business agenda. Ms. Pudney, I think you're up first with a Washington County rezoning request, which is an advisory question to the county commissioners.
Okay. So this is a Washington County rezoning request for 519 Bugaboo Springs Road. A request from R1, which is low-density residential, to A1, which is general agriculture. Just a correction that was in your staff reports, the acreage, I think that was reported was 17.13. It is actually 24.33 acres. Just a mistype from staff. But the property is currently zoned R1, low-density residential. The applicant is requesting it to be rezoned to A1 in Washington County to allow for a personal garage accessory structure to be built on the property prior to a primary residence. As stated a couple times now, property's in Washington County, so any future development will have to meet the Washington County zoning code and regulations. The current, on the left-hand side, this is the current Johnson City land use map, and then the current Johnson City zoning. The previous one, I should have explained that a little bit better, is the county zoning. So the county, it's low-density residential, and it borders a already zoned A1 to the north of the property. Johnson City zoning, low-density residential to the right. This is the Ridges area, just for reference. The A1, Washington County A1, is intended to provide locations for urbanization, which are compatible with agricultural uses and low-density residential development. Washington County has informed the neighbors and have held all the required meetings and notices for the request. And I believe the attorney for the applicant is present, so if we have any questions per the applicant, their attorney is here. Staff recommends approval for the A1 rezoning request. It won't have an unreasonable impact on the surrounding areas due to the low-density residential R1 and A1 that borders the existing properties. And just for further analysis, our future land use map does recommend that the property be zoned suburban, agriculture, and residential, so it does line up with our future land use. So if you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer them, and their attorney's here as well.
Questions for staff? Okay. No questions for staff.
Can you remind me again what the impetus is for the request to change from R1 to A1?
I'm sorry?
What was the reason for requesting the change from R1 to A1?
They want to build a personal garage accessory building, which isn't allowed in the R1 prior to primary residence. So the A1 allows for them to have that personal garage accessory structure prior to a single-family home or a primary residence being built.
You can't build a garage in R1?
It's not attached to the house.
No. There's no structure on the
Oh, there's no primary.
Yeah, it's a vacant piece of property right now, so this would be the primary structure.
Got it. Okay.
Are there any limitations under county zoning of how large an auxiliary structure can be? And any kind of restrictions, do you know?
That I do not know.
I believe A1 is the most, versatile
General.
zoning. You can do anything. I mean, you can do anything
Yeah.
with an A1. Put a landing strip if you want to.
Any other questions for staff? Thank you, Ms. Putney. I'll open the floor for comments by the public. Is the representative of the applicant here? And do you have anything you want to present to us? If you could please state your name and address.
Sarah Sims, I'm
Pull it
here
down.
representing, oh, yes,
Thank you.
a little tall. Sarah Sims, representing Grant Summers here on this matter, 379 Princeton Gardens, Johnson City. I don't have anything further to add, but if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them to the extent I can.
Does the applicant, I have a quick question, Ms. Sims. Does the applicant plan on building a primary structure
Yes.
on this residence?
It's just an order of operations
Okay.
matter, so the desire is to build the garage first, the garage structure, and then the primary residence would come shortly thereafter.
So I just want to understand, this would be a primary residence? That's the
Yes.
intent?
That's
Okay,
correct.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Any other questions for?
I have a question. So this is a non-binding agreement, correct?
This is a recommendation to the county commissioners to change the zoning to A1. This is only a recommendation to the county commissioners.
So they could essentially use this property per any permissives within that A1 zone?
Yes.
Like a landing strip for an airplane?
Yes.
So, you're correct, Washington County doesn't have a binding concept plan like we do, but we spoke with the applicant earlier today, and this is the topography of the property, so it's very steep and sloped, so they don't have any intention, nor is it really feasible to build anything besides a primary residence for monetary and just feasibility purposes.
The grade it's quite steep. The only thing that could really, that the property is really usable for is either vacant land as it is now or single-family residence.
Any other questions for the representative?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make the recommendation to approve the zoning
Excuse
to
me, I have a
A1.
point of order. I have to close the public
Oh,
comment
sorry.
first, if you hold on. Anybody else here for thank you, ma'am.
Yes.
Anyone else here for comment on this project? Can you please come to the podium and give us your name and address?
I think you're all doing a great job. I'm Barbara Thrasher, 505 Bugaboo Springs Road. I think my question's been answered. I was not aware of any meetings. I have not read anything about the property except for this little letter that I got. So if I heard her correctly, they want to do a personal accessory garage, something?
An auxiliary structure to
Auxiliary, I
function as a garage,
apologize.
is my understanding.
And the only other intent is to build a primary residence. Did I hear that correctly? Because when I look at this designation, daycare centers, gas stations, anything applies. So that's all I know is I did look at Tennessee's AG, whatever this is, designation, A1 General Agriculture. And it looks to me like anything qualifies. So I guess my question really has been answered. It's just a primary residence and this auxiliary garage. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yes, with the. I
That is
believe
our
with the-
understanding too, ma'am.
And down the road, they're not going to throw in a landing strip?
No, they'll put a primary residence on it in the future.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think you've answered my question.
Well, no, they could put a landing strip on it in the future.
I mean, the information I read, they could put daycare centers, gas stations, anything on there.
Well, I think,
Ms. Thresh.
let me have order, please. I think the point of the topography of the land is not suited to a whole large variety of applications.
It is
But
state.
we can't confirm that they're putting a resident on.
We
that
cannot
property.
make any guarantee that that's what it will ultimately be. We cannot guarantee that. And again, our role is to make a recommendation to the county commission, who has authority to make this rezoning change. In fact, we're only in an advisory role, so we
Okay.
don't get to make that final decision.
And Chairman, if I may, Ms. Thresher, the zoning for this, agricultural speaking, for the county, this is probably this is the most appropriate zone for a single-family residence, right? If we're gonna do multifamily or something more dense, you'd have a different zoning code, but for something that's gonna be just a single-family home, this would be the most appropriate code.
Okay.
That's why
All
we're
right.
doing it.
Well, I won't take any more of your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else here to speak to the question? Okay, I'll close the floor for public comment. Now, any discussion amongst us, or I'll hear
I'd like to make the nomination to approve the rezoning to A1 as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve the zoning to A1. Any other discussion? Ms. Putney, you must have something to say to me.
No, I just have the next agenda item.
Okay. Hearing no further discussion amongst us, I'll ask Ms. Lawrence to call the roll, please.
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Commissioner Dutton?
Yes.
Commissioner Rhodey?
Yes.
Commissioner Whitfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Oceanbine?
Yes.
Chairman Dagenhart?
Yes.
Motion has carried.
Thank you very much. Ms. Putney, I think our next item is a preliminary plat and with a requested variance around a residential development.
Yes. So this is one of two variance requests for the same variance that you'll hear tonight. The first one is for 2826 Watauga Road. We have a preliminary plat and a variance request for it. The property is located within city limits, and city water is available. City sewer will have to be extended prior to final plat approval, which is why it's a preliminary plat today. Don't know if you guys had time to look at the plat there, but just as you can see from the plat, lots 2 and 3 are the ones that require the variance to the 3-to-1 lot width to depth ratio. Lot 1, which is this lot down here, meets that requirement, so just asking for the variance for lots 2 and 3. It's a proposed 3-lot subdivision in all. Lot 3, which is this middle lot, has an existing shed that will, and it's noted on the preliminary plat, that will need removal prior to final plat approval. Lot 2 meets minimum road frontage requirements. There was a concern, it's 54 feet across the road frontage, so the required 50 has been met. And Lot 1, the existing structure with the subdivision still meets our required setbacks and zoning regulations. So further on the variance requests, it's lots 2 and 3 that require it. The purpose of the 3-to-1 lot to width ratio is to avoid the long, narrow lots in order to promote the constructions of streets, to increase accessibility within the city, and to minimize waste of usable land. These new lots, while they're in the city, are they're not creating any new roads and not part of a major subdivision, and they're just being created inside the existing lot lines. So this is the most feasible subdivision of the property. So staff recommends approval of the variance for lots 2 and 3, and recommendation for preliminary plat approval as well with that granted variance.
Thank you very much. Questions for staff? Thank you, Ms. Putney. Okay, I'll open the floor for public comment on this question about the subdivision with a variance around the lot width to depth ratio. Is anyone here to speak to the question? Is the applicant here?
My name's Brian Tossman. I'm one of the surveyors for it, representing the client and the landowner. She hit everything on the head. They're just looking to get this thing subdivided. They're looking to get started on a house on Lot 2. And we are aware that we will have to connect to the city sewer, which runs across the rear of the property. So,
All right, thank you. Any questions for, sir, Madam Gentleman?
Your address.
address will be 422 East Market Street, Kingsport, Tennessee, 37660.
Thank you, sir. Is anyone else here to speak to the question? All right, I'll close the floor for public comment. I think the question now is to us.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, please.
Yes, please.
Motion to approve the preliminary plat and grant the variance for lots 2 and 3 as presented by staff.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve the plat with the variances around lot width and depth dimensions. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Aldridge. Yes. Commissioner Bailey.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper.
Yes.
Commissioner Dutton.
Yes.
Commissioner Rhodey.
Yes.
Commissioner Whitfield.
Yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Oceanbine.
Yes.
Chairman Dagenhart.
Yes.
Motion has carried.
Before we move to the next item, I would like to ask our Director Ryder, we've seen several of these variances come before us recently, and I'd like for us to, if staff has the capacity, to look at the possibility of exploring when those applications should not be approved, and do we need to look at adjusting the language in our subdivision regulations?
That's a great observation, Chairman, and anytime you see a variance request that comes up time and time again, it makes you wonder if something needs to be changed with the code. In this particular case, I did not see these for about 3 years for this particular variance. So it seemed to be a moot point or non-issue. Then a couple of years ago, we had one which backed up to a lake, and that was obviously half of the lake, half of the lot was underwater, so that provoked one of the requests. Now we've seen it the past couple of months. It could be a number of things. Maybe the regulation needs to be, maybe we need to strike it. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's not useful. Maybe it needs to be tweaked a little bit, or maybe it is serving its purpose by reviewing them case by case. Would this same variance request be appropriate in a larger subdivision? Don't know, but it's something that we need to, we've already talked about it as staff about looking at that and addressing that. We got some ideas, and and it would ultimately lead to a workshop with your commission. You all do have authority over the subdivision regulations, so it's noted, and we're actually already working on it, and thank you for bringing it to our
Thank you very
attention.
much. All right, Ms. Putney, I think we're to item number 3, a Carrol Creek Road final plat and variance request, please.
Yes. Similar request, final plat. This is a final plat approval and variance request for 2857 and 2829 Carrol Creek Road. The property is located outside of the city limits, but within our planning region. City services are not provided, so TDEC approval for a septic system, which will be on lot, I believe it's lot 2, will be required before the final plat is signed by staff. So lot 2, this is the lot that would require a stamp by TDEC for sewer, for septic service, if the commission approves the final plat. Similar to what we just saw, this is a proposed 3-lot subdivision, and lots 1 and 3 exceed the 3-to-1 lot width to depth ratio. Lot 2 meets it by 176 feet, so they are 6 feet over that required minimum. As I stated before, Lot 2 requires that TDEC approval for a septic system, so that would be, your approval would be contingent on that TDEC final stamp on that plat. The proposed lots are within Washington County, and they're zoned R1 low-density residential. The applicant proposes to construct a single-family home on Lot 2, and it would meet the requirements, setbacks, minimum lot sizes of Washington County, and those are in that bottom left-hand corner for the commission to review if needed. Per the variance request, as previously stated, lots 1 and 3 require that variance for a 3-to-1 lot width to depth ratio. Lot 2 is compliant, and not to sound like a broken record, but the proposed 3-to-1 lot width to depth is to promote constructions of new streets, increase accessibility between lots, and minimize waste of usable land. These lots are not within city limits. There's no creation or changes to Carrol Creek Road, and they're not part of a major subdivision, so staff feels like the variance is necessary and should be approved or granted. Which goes to the recommendation. The plat meets the requirements of the Johnson City subdivision regulations if the variance is granted, and it also meets the requirements of the Washington County Zoning Code. Staff recommends approval of the final plat pending TDEC approval for Lot 2 and the variance request.
Thank you very much. Just for clarification, again, this is an advisory decision for the County of Washington County
This one is
Commissioners.
within our planning region, so you have final, it's a
Okay.
final plat.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry I made that mistake.
No, you are absolutely fine.
All right, questions for staff?
Are you aware of any other lots in this area that have similar variants? Is this unique to the Carrol Creek area?
I personally am not aware of any. I would have to look at the aerial view of the area, but the neighboring lot, the 2859, you can see matches the existing, what they're requesting to be subdivided, so it's matching the lot lines of the existing lots in the area.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Putney. All right, I'm going to open the floor for comments from the public. Is the applicant or his representative here? Sir, you're coming back. Welcome back.
This also is one of ours, one of the surveyors. My name's Brian Salzman, 422. Just making sure. Same situation. The property owner is just wanting to subdivide this, and nothing's going to be anything out of the ordinary than what is already there. It's going to be primary residence.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the applicant's representative? Thank you. Any other public comment?
I'm
All right.
just gonna pull up the approval.
Okay.
That way
Yeah,
we can make a
get the
recommendation.
wording
Lots of
correct.
lots.
All right, I'm going to close the floor for public comment, seeing no one else to come forward.
Chairman, if I may.
Questions?
Recommend approval as presented by staff for the preliminary plat with variance requests for lots 1 and 3.
May I second that?
Yes, you may. Yeah, that's very-
Second?
All right, we have a motion to approve the final plat pending TDEC approval and the grant for the variance for lots 1 and 3. We have that motion, and I have a second. Any other discussion? Ms. Lawrence, please call the roll.
Commissioner Aldridge? Yes. Commissioner Bailey?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Commissioner Dutton?
Yes.
Commissioner Rhodey?
Yes.
Commissioner Whitfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Oceanbine?
Yes.
Chairman Dagenhart?
Yes.
Motion has carried.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Hodges, I guess you're going to talk to us about College Heights.
All right, so this rezoning request on College Heights has been before you once before. I believe that was October. The request came back in modified to just the existing house. So that is all we're discussing this evening. As you know from, and just for the public's benefit, this was an existing house that had a duplex on it. And so they're requesting a zoning change to allow to continue the duplex and to bring that back. The reason I'm putting these two up is because we've noted in land use that is multifamily, but the zoning is the R2 zoning, so we're going to R3. This is the site plan, nothing is changing. The site plan meets all the requirements. Staff recommends approval. There's some pictures of what the existing house looks like during our wonderful snow. And any questions you may have of myself or the applicant?
Questions? This property is currently vacant, is that correct?
No, there's a house on it.
No, I mean occupied.
It's
I'm
not
sorry,
occupied, yes.
I should have said. It is occupied?
It's not occupied.
It's not occupied. All right, any questions for staff? All right, thank you, Ms. Hodges. If the applicant's here, you're welcome to come forward and speak. If not, I'll open the floor for public comment. I see someone coming to the podium. Name and address, please.
Randy Beckner, 1002 Katie's Way, Johnson City. It came to light during my larger rezoning request that this parcel is, I guess, improperly being used. It's been a duplex for forever. It's got 2 electrical services, 2 911 addresses, 2 water services there. But since it came to light, I decided I thought I'd go ahead and get it rezoned to make it conforming.
Thank you, sir.
What's his name? Gotta get his name.
Ms. Loris, did you get his name and address? Thank you. Anyone else to speak to the question? Okay, I'm going to close the floor for public comment. All right, the question is now on us.
Mr. Chairman, I think this is pretty straightforward. So we're just bringing the building into compliance for a use that it has enjoyed historically. As such, I'd move to approve.
Second. Motion and a second to approve the rezoning request. Any further discussion? Ms. Lawrence, please call the roll.
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Commissioner Dutton?
Yes.
Commissioner Rhodey?
Yes.
Commissioner Whitfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Oceanbine?
Yes.
Chairman Dagenhart?
Yes.
Motion is carried.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, Ms. Hodges, are you queuing up something? Okay, thank you. All right, the next item on our agenda is the Burlington Mills Rezoning project. Mr. Ryder, I think you're going to present, is that correct?
Yes, sir. Good evening, Chairman Dagenhart, Vice Chairman Oceanbine. Congratulations on your re-elections. Vice Chairman Murphy, Commissioners. This is a rezoning request to rezone 2203 McKinley Road from an I-2 heavy industrial to B3 supporting central business district. As your Commission's charge with any rezoning request is to consider the use of the land. Is it a reasonable use of the land? Is it a good use of the land? Is it the highest and best use of the land? That's really the issue that's before you tonight, is this request to rezone from I-2, which allows a lot of industrial type of uses, factories, those sorts of things, to rezone it from that to B3, which allows for residential development and for commercial development. That's really the question that's before you tonight. The property that we're discussing tonight is the old Burlington Mills factory, which now houses 110 some residents. There's another slide with a specific number on it. A good number of retail and restaurants, commercial uses. There's a medical office there, some mini warehouses, all of which, other than the mini warehouses or the self-storage, are not permitted in the industrial district. And we'll look at the zoning in a moment. Let me orient you to the site just so we know where we're at in town. This is the medical center, the JC Med Center. This is State of Franklin. This is the intersection of West Walnut Street heading towards Jonesboro and State of Franklin. And this is the building that we're discussing here, and specifically this portion of the lot. It's situated between 2 collector streets, McKinley Road and West Walnut Road. The current zoning, This is all one lot. This is not, sometimes lot lines hide under zoning lines. This is a zoning line. This is not a lot line. So this property is currently split zoned. A portion, the larger portion of this property, which is approximately 22 plus acres, the majority of it is zoned B3. They are requesting to be rezoned to B3. This I-2 portion is the part that we're discussing tonight. That's what the applicant's proposing to rezone from I-2 to B3, so it would eliminate a split zoned lot. This is the future land use map. Future land use map shows that red is commercial, yellow is residential, so the future land use map shows that this property should be commercial. The B3, as with all of our commercial districts, do allow for residential development. Now, most commercial districts dictate that residential development has to occur on upper floors. B3, which a good portion of this property is already zoned B3, allows for residential development either on upper floors or standalone condos, apartments, or even single-family houses. So it lines up with the, it is supported, the proposed use is supported by the future land use map. You can also see the future land use map also shows that calls for residential development, which is what in fact is out there at this time. Now, a little further on the current zoning, and we'll talk about the specific request on the next slide with the proposed concept plan. But if you look, always important in determining if this is a reasonable use of the land, and if this is if this is the highest and best use of the land, always important to consider its compatibility with surrounding zones and surrounding zoning districts. So you can see all of these residential units that are currently located on it. Those are non-conforming right now. Those are not permitted under the current I-2 zoning. So if nothing were to be developed on this property, if you change the zoning to B3, the residential uses would at least be conforming with the current zoning code. This is the lot. Looking at the lot, this is, which I was referencing earlier. Again, this is that zoning line. That's not a lot line, so this is a split zone lot. The great majority of the lot is already zoned B3. This would be extending the B3 zoning westward to the other side of the property. All of this area down through here is multifamily residential zoning, R3, which allows residential development at 7 units per acre. Over here, across McKinley Road, you already have R6 zoning, which is 25 units per acre. And we have a little bit of R4 with these units here that permit residential development at a density of 14 units per acre. So looking at the current zoning and looking at the request, going to the B3 zoning allows residential development at 35 units per acre. That can already be done on this portion of the property. If you extend it further over here, it fixes the split zone assignment, and it lines up with, it's compatible with the existing zoning districts. Again, it's currently zoned I-2. Proposed zoning B3 supporting central business district permits residential development of 35 units per acre. It's 22.102 acre site. And I know we're only rezoning this portion of the property, but we have to look at the entire lot because the proposed development, the developer would have to, had to submit a site plan or a concept plan, which is binding, which is what's before you, because it will apply to the entire lot. So we've got to consider the entire 22.102 acres to get the allowable zoning, which is 773 units. A type 2 buffer will be required on adjoining single-family properties. They're actually proposing a buffer all along this side of the property. The type over here are the single-family houses. So they're meeting that requirement. A type 2 buffer consists of a buffer which is either, those two options, either 20 feet in width or 15 feet in width. So you're looking at a difference of either an all-tree buffer or a masonry wall and wood fence with some trees. They're also proposing some 40,000 square feet of retail development. So the development they're proposing is a mixed-use development, be very unique to this city. I'm not sure that we've had another type of development like this that we've seen before. But the proposed use is 773 apartment units with 40,000 square feet of commercial property. You can see that this creek, Rush Creek, which, as we know, it runs on down to Founder's Park, is on the property. During the demolition of the building, which would be done in phases, and the applicant is here and he could speak to that at this point, but again, we're considering the land use and is this a reasonable use of the land. The intent is to provide a great deal of green space for the residents that'll be living here, and there'll be a bit of creek restoration for Brush Creek, of which runs under a portion of the property at this point. It also has parking requirements on the concept plan, 1,184 required parking spaces. They're proposing 1,324. There is a change from the concept plan that was presented at the 12-6 neighborhood meeting, and that's the number of units have actually decreased. That's because of a survey that the applicant did. So there's no issue with going with a decrease rather than it's instead of an increase in the number of units. There's also a parking garage, but the parking garage is part of the concept plan requirement to show that they're meeting the required parking. Here are some, this is on McKinley Road looking across the property. This is trying to get as much of the property. It's a very large building, very difficult to get in one picture, impossible to get in one picture. But this is the side of the property that we're considering for rezoning. The current land uses out there right now are 110 dwelling units, about 18,000 square feet of retail, and 29,750 feet of mini storage. This is not all of the uses that are in the zoning matrix, but since we're dealing with the binding concept plan, we're only dealing with two types of uses. We're dealing with residential and we're dealing with commercial. Comparing that to the I-2, you can see the I-2 does not allow any type of housing except for security housing for like a manufacturing facility or something along those lines, which you'd have to get approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals. So the B3 allows for single-family, two-family, and multifamily dwellings. It also has some of the commercial uses that are allowed, retail, restaurants, offices. You can see that the I-2 has very limited dry cleaning, laundry, and offices. And after looking at the property, really the only use that's out there now that is allowed under the I-2 is the self-storage. There will be, Travis Ollinger from the Water and Sewer Department is here if you have specific questions about any upgrades that would be required. Anticipated upgrades are depicted on this slide. There is available water and sewer available from the existing development. They will require upgrades to provide adequate service. Anticipated upgrades would be the necessity to upgrade approximately 2,000 feet of sanitary sewer interceptor downstream of the site, 1,300 feet of extension of water from the 1838 pressure zone. That's an elevation reference to the height of the water tank, location of the water tank. And then with possible, as we'll see in the next slide, with the traffic study, and anticipated road improvements, approximately 2,100 feet to require utility relocation and or replacement. Some applicant was required to do a transportation study to see how it affects traffic in that area. It's a very large development, so they have done a preliminary study. Anthony Todd can speak more specifically to the study itself, but broadly speaking, it was planned for worst-case scenarios, which showed a 240% increase in trips from the existing traffic patterns. It would require 2 points of vehicular access into the site, which the concept plan depicts. The study covered the entire lot, both the area that's proposed for rezoning and the remaining portion, which was also, we've seen on the concept plan. The site currently generates 1,497 trips. With the rezoning, it could generate up to approximately 4,678 trips, an increase of 212%. That's a very large number, very significant number. Therefore, our traffic division did an analysis, and these anticipated improvements are expected. And again, Anthony Todd's here to talk specifics about these, but you can listen, you can see them listed here. Traffic signal at Walnut Street and Antioch Road, eastbound and westbound left turn lanes on Walnut Street at Antioch Road. In addition to what the traffic study shows, the applicant's aware that they'll have to put in a deceleration lane off of Walnut Street, an eastbound lane, turn lane off of Walnut Street and onto McKinley Road, a right turn lane off of Walnut Street onto State of Franklin, and a second westbound through lane on Walnut Street will be extended to McKinley Road. Now, comments from the neighborhood meeting. There were 54 citizens that signed the attendance log. There may have been more, but these were the ones that signed. That's a very large number. Now, I've tried to capture, without getting into great detail and specifics about each individual complaint, I tried to capture each of the topics that I had note of and which we've also received from that neighborhood meeting and what we've heard through emails. I know emails have been sent to both the Board of Commissioners and the Planning Commissioner, City Management, myself, Riley, planning staff in general. So these are the topics that were expressed during the neighborhood meeting. And the public is here, so I'm sure that during the public hearing, if they have additional comments, they will make those known at this time. The majority of the citizens were affiliated or in support of the Night Owl Circus Arts. They are a current tenant that's actually on the side of the property which is subject to the rezoning. The owner of the Pike House Coffee tenant was, he was a current tenant, was also there and spoke in favor of the request. The concerns, questions, there were concerns about the status of the 3-year lease renewal, established businesses having to close or relocate, displaced residential tenants. What will the developer do to retain businesses currently operating in the structure? What will the developer do for small businesses? How many units will be constructed per phase? And I would add the demolition, and how's the demolition going to occur? How is that the phasing going to occur with the demolition? Rent prices, environmental concerns regarding the demolition of the former plant, its effect on the citizens in the Brush Creek. Why'd the developer choose Johnson City? Will current businesses be grandfathered, and what's the impact on traffic? So a lot of concerns. Again, this board is concerned in land use, and is this a reasonable use of the property? And there are several points on there that do deal with land use, but that's really the matter that's before this commission tonight. There is supporting points from the bridge plan, both dealing with infill development. We need infill development. Infill development allows us to make use of either dilapidated properties that are not being used to the highest and best capacity, and it prevents us from having a lot of annexations where we have to extend our services and infrastructure. So we like infill development. The staff recommends approval to rezone the subject property from I-2 to B3 based on quite a few reasons here. The current I-2 zoning does not permit the majority of the current uses or the proposed uses. The B3 does permit the majority of the current uses and proposed uses. Multifamily and commercial zoning uses are appropriate on collector streets. The collector streets, again, you remember it's situated at West Walnut and McKinley. Those are both collector streets. That's conducive for multifamily and commercial zoning, particularly with the recommendations that we've seen from the preliminary traffic study. The majority of the lot is currently Zone B3. The rezoning would eliminate the split zone condition of the lot. The proposed uses are compatible with the land uses of the subject and surrounding properties. If you reflect back on the slide I showed earlier where we showed that the future land use map calls for this area to be commercial and residential, and there's a great deal of existing high-density zoning districts and commercial districts that are already zoned that way. And yeah, I think I just mentioned that it's compatible with the future land use map. So that's our recommendation. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Anthony Todd with the traffic division is here if you'd like to speak with him. Travis is here with water and sewer. And
All right, questions for staff?
Mr. Ryder, a really quick question. The off-site improvements, who's paying for those?
the developer, and I think I'd let Anthony speak to that some, but I think most of those improvements would be paid for by the developer. There may be a particular item that, or two, that the city would be willing to pay for or perhaps partner with in those improvements. But specifically with the traffic components, those would be at a cost to the developer.
Thank you.
Mr. Ryder, would you call back to one of your diagrams that actually shows the layout? I was going to look to see where this, if this property is contiguous to the railroad.
Should have pointed that out in the orientation here when we were familiarizing you with the site. There is a rail line here.
And that is active?
Yes.
What's the barrier that will be?
I'm
The
sorry?
safety barrier that's required, the safety barrier that's required?
Well, they'll have typically a railroad, and it may be, you can faintly see probably the railway no-build area between this point and this point. They can be anywhere between 50, 100 feet either side of the railroad track. So the proposed development where they're proposed, if they propose something in that area, they would not be able to build there. And, but the concept plan's not depicting that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ryder, can you remind me, for B3, are there any green space requirements for that zone?
There are no green space requirements, but part of the.
Open space or green space?
No open space or green space requirements, but you can see with the concept plan that it's calling for, I mean, they demolished, let me go back to this slide right here. You can see the creek goes through the rail line, under the rail line, on the back side or south side of the building, and then when it gets to this portion of the structure, it disappears underneath the building and continues out and eventually meanders on its way down to Brush Creek and downtown Johnson City. So with the type of development that they're depicting on the concept plan, the creek has to be uncovered, and you can see they're implementing a great deal of green space that's on the concept plan that can be enjoyed by the residents and the public, because this will be a public place. There'll be a lot of, hopefully, I mean, the intent would be to have a lot of shoppers and people using, making use of the commercial uses and visiting and pedestrian bridges going across the creek. So there's a very unique, it's a property, although there are no open space requirements specified for the zoning code, they are depicted on the concept plan. And it's making use of natural open space that's already existing with the creek.
And just to confirm, Mr. Ryder, this concept plan is binding?
It is binding.
Mr. Ryder, they talk about a phased build, and regarding traffic and some of the issues there with the study and maybe some adjustments that are going to have to be made, is the city going to be doing most of that on the front end, or as far as kind of their timeline with their build, how is that going to exactly work?
You see a lot more of it ramp up as we headed into the development phase. Again, this is regarding the land use, and is this an appropriate use of the land? Traffic, of course, can play a part in that, but a lot of the stuff you would see after the rezoning as they start to develop and send in site plans. But I think that'd probably be a good question for Mr. Todd.
Okay.
Mr. Ryder, can I ask you a question for just a second? On the plan here, it shows the creek, but then it stops right there in that octagon area. What happens to the creek?
Where are we at now? This one?
Yeah, see the Brush Creek goes all the way down, and you can see where it just stops right there at the Octagon area?
Pass under that plaza, is that what it does?
Yeah, and I think the developer's here, so I'll let him speak to that design detail.
Mr. Todd, could you come forward? I think we have some questions for you. Did you have a question for Mr. Todd?
Mr. Todd, it's regarding kind of some of the issues you addressed when you reviewed traffic regarding kind of how that works with their development build versus when those are addressed.
Yes, as they phase their project, this was a preliminary traffic study, so there's going to be a bigger traffic study that is already underway. They needed to take in ETSU traffic, and we didn't want to discount that as part of the traffic study. They're going to cover more intersections than they even covered in the initial study.
Good.
And TDOT will be reviewing it along with us. And yes, as a development is proposed and as the phasing is played out, then we start to decide what needs to be done when and plan it out in a strategic manner.
Great, thank you.
Before you leave, Mr. Todd, let me ask you, the cost of transport road improvements would be jointly shared by the developer and the city. Is that a fair statement?
That would be up to the commission.
Okay.
So the commission can choose to participate in the road development. The first responsibility falls with the developer, and then if the commission chooses to assist in that,
Okay, so it would fall on the developer unless the city steps forward with some funds and funding. What about scheduling? Do you see scheduling being an issue over a phased development plan?
If there was a very aggressive development plan that was occupying quickly, it can always happen that you had the development get there a little bit before the improvements. That's always a potential, and even if it were to happen first before the development got there, you're going to have some traffic issues.
Okay, thank you. Further questions for Mr. Todd or anybody else on
I
staff?
just wanted to ask about the street light that, I think it was gonna go up between is it Antioch and Walnut?
It would
Is
be
this-
Antioch and Walnut is where it was anticipated,
Is the
yes.
developer required to do that, or is that something the city's gonna do?
Again, it first falls on the developer. If the city chooses to participate in the funding, then the city can.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions for staff? Mr. Olinger, Travis Olinger is here from Water Sewer. Any questions about that? Okay. I think we've exhausted our questions for staff for now. I'm going to open the floor for public comment, but before I do that, I want to make a notation that the commission has received several emails. There are several in here stacked. We have received those. We have those in front of us. Ms. Lawrence, I want to make sure that you put those in the public record, please. Okay, I'm going to open the floor for public comment. I think we have two people that are already registered for public comment. Either one of you can come forward. If you'll give us your name and address, you'll have 3 minutes, and please address your comments to us.
Sure. My name's Craig Lewis, and the address is 718 University Parkway, Johnson City, 37604. My business address is 2203 McKinley Road, Suite 520. My name's Craig Lewis. I'm the owner of Night Owl Circus Arts here in Johnson City. I'm a lifelong resident of the Tri-Cities and ETSU alumni. I'm a member of the board of directors of the American Circus Educators Association and the site director for the International Jugglers Association. Night Owl Circus Arts is a 10-year-old business located in the Burlington building that offers classes in aerial silks, trapeze, lyra, juggling, partner, acrobatics, contortion, dance, and so much more for students of all ages. Our students range from recreational to professional, and we're known on a national and international level within the wider circus community. Our facility requires very difficult to find specs. We need a space with 20-foot ceilings with exposed beams and HVAC, among many other things. And our space within the Burlington building is very likely irreplaceable for us. We are currently on a very frantic search for a new location, but we have not yet found a single building in Johnson City that meets our specifications, and there is a very real possibility that the loss of the Burlington building could possibly mean the end for our 10-year-old business. Several months ago, we signed a 3-year lease with Sound Management, and with this lease term in mind, we made significant investment in renovations to our space. They've made it clear that they intend to begin demolition of this building very quickly, breaking the lease they signed with us and putting themselves in breach of contract. At this time, they've not offered any tangible, realistic solutions. I don't think that the city of Johnson City should be enabling outside developers to knowingly breach their contracts and destroy, potentially, businesses in our community. Furthermore, I think the traffic concerns need to be further addressed, especially in regards to the dangerous intersection at State of Franklin and West Walnut, which was not included in the preliminary traffic study. I also think the environmental concerns that have been raised by others are extremely important and need to be further addressed. And finally, I just want to state that as a business owner that's heavily affected by this decision, I should have been given more than 5 days' notice about today's meeting. I didn't receive any kind of notification from the city and only found out about today's meeting because my lawyer tracked down the information. So I've spoken to many other tenants of the Burlington buildings as well as surrounding residents and business owners, and almost none of them have been made aware of the neighborhood meeting on December 6th or today's meeting, or some of them don't even know that the building's slated for demolition. So I don't think proper notification has been given to the people that really need to know about this.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Mr. Lewis.
Thank you.
Thank you. Second person. Could you start with your name and address, please?
Yes, sir, certainly. I'm Travis Wolven. My address is 111 West Unaka. I live just downtown. I actually walked here today, so it's one of the things I like about Johnson City. So a little bit about me. So I'm a 6th grade teacher here at Ashley Academy. This is my second time living in Johnson City by way of Seoul, South Korea for a few years, teaching there, and then I was in Boston and Cambridge for a few years. I came back to Johnson City specifically to study at ETSU. I could have studied at other schools, but not only did I love that school, but I love Johnson City, and that's why I came here. Why I'm standing here is because the reason that I'm in Johnson City is for that small town aspect, for the fact that there are still local businesses, still family-owned businesses, still businesses that are interested in what's happening locally. You know, as a teacher, I can speak to globalization and all sorts of economic movement. I know Johnson City, when working with my students in math on population and growth rates, we even talked about Johnson City having a 1.8% growth rate. So that's about 1,200 people per year. You know, so we got to find some place to put them. But you know, looking at this project, I really urge all of you to maybe take some more time with it. Growing up in Georgia and Paulding County, the 7th fastest growing county in the nation, I watch projects like this pop up everywhere. And now it's completely unrecognizable as anything but suburban sprawl. You know, even now I'm looking to plant roots in Johnson City. You know, talking to my mom and having her come visit. She wants to come live here. But hearing about this project and how quickly this is going down, it's big red flags for us. We don't know if we want to do that. As a teacher, I speak with my students' parents who are lawyers, doctors, dentists, all kinds of entrepreneurs. None of them are interested in this project. A lot of them seem to have disappointment, stress, concerns. They think of Monarch Apartments. They think of Buck Ridge. And, you know, these buildings need to be rezoned, but, and change happens. Life is hard. I recognize that. But I seriously urge the council to take time on this, to think about this. If you set back the date, is there a way to have a provision for Night Owl Circus? I too am a patron of that establishment, and I love it very much. But this does not seem to fit anything which is discussed in Section 1 of the zoning laws, ensuring to facilitate adequate transportation, water, sewage, sustained stability. So I urge you to take your time with this and not approve of this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, now that we've had those two comments, if you'll hold, please, I'll make room for you. I want to give the opportunity for the applicant or his representative to come forward. and make any comments that he would like to make, and allow us to ask questions if we need to. Thank you, sir.
Hi, my name is Yuri Miller with Eximia.
Could you give your address, please?
2203 McKinley Road. We're looking to develop this property. I have with me my architect and engineer who are better qualified to answer some of the questions, but if you have individual questions to me as a developer, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions for Mr. Miller?
Mr. Miller, I think one question that came up was as it pertains to the creek running into that, the plaza in the area of what I imagine is a commercial property. Can you speak to that?
So right now, there's about, and you know what, I'm going to let my engineer speak to this.
Okay.
He'll probably be able to explain it better, give a more exact answer.
Randy Beckner with Mattern and Craig, 403 East Market Street, right across the road. Yeah, the entire site right now is impervious. It's either pavement or building. The bulk of Brush Creek is currently encapsulated by the existing building. It's really, if you get under there and look, it's really an environmental nightmare as far as that stream goes. You know, the conceptual plan has opening that up, creating a nice park-type setting. We have had some initial meetings with TDEC to discuss this project. They are on board with this, basically remediating and renovating the stream back to a nice environmental feature. The only thing that will still be encapsulated will be the part that goes under the square. But it will be, you know, a larger, more of a bridge type enclosure rather than a really tight culvert enclosure. So it'll be much nicer visually.
Randy, for just generally the folks in the room, we're familiar, I mean, a lot of us, we're familiar with what TDEC is, not everyone will be.
Tennessee Department, Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation, they regulate the environment basically in the state of Tennessee.
Could you speak on some of the hazard mitigation for this building? Given its age, it's going to have some asbestos, it's going to have some lead paint in it. Can you talk about how that would be?
The architect may be able to speak more to that. I'm a civil engineer, but
Okay.
of course, before any demolition, asbestos surveys, lead, that may have already been done. But that will be done, and environmental will be followed.
Darrell Johnson, Johnson Architecture, 2018 Davenport Road in Knoxville. We have been working on this with Yuri for some period of time. I think the basic concept of reclaiming the stream was priority number one for the developer. If you go out there right now and you look at the existing conditions, it's actually quite atrocious. So what we're trying to do from day one was to reclaim that stream and then to create an environment that was pedestrian friendly and resident friendly, that centered around kind of a central square that was reminiscent of maybe Murfreesboro or somewhere else that has retail, possibly restaurants, all ringing this town square area. As far as the environmental concerns, and there was some comments about the railroad, I think, earlier, all of those things are currently under study. We are so early in the process. This is, you know, like Mr. Rogers said, this is a rezone. We have still testing to do. We have investigations with regard to remediation. If there are materials there, that has to be looked at. So there's a large magnitude of things that still need to be done before we can really answer a lot of these questions sufficiently.
Yeah, Mr. Miller, maybe one question. When would you anticipate breaking ground?
Obviously, we have a lot of investigation to do,
Right.
so if we move forward, we would like to break ground, hopefully end of this year, potentially beginning of next.
Any other questions for the applicants?
I just have a question for either the architect or the engineer. As far as the creek goes, how close is that creek to what the buildings will be, or where the buildings will be?
Yeah, we have, right now, there's a 60-foot, 30 feet on either side from the center line of the stream.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you. Okay, the floor is still open. I think I saw one hand that wanted to speak. Please feel free to come forward. Give your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes, please.
Hi there. My name is Laurel Guy. My address is 2016 Northwood Drive, Johnson City, Tennessee. I'm a minister at a local church, a Master of Divinity student at Emmanuel Christian Seminary at Milligan University, a student chaplain at the local hospital, and most importantly for this evening, I'm an aerialist at Night Owl Circus Arts. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I know everybody's times are really valuable. The city has been asked to consider a rezoning proposal from Sound Management concerning the Burlington Park property, where Night Owl Circus Arts is approximately 8 months into a 3-year lease. I want to begin by saying that I understand that a rezoning proposal technically has no impact on an existing lease agreement. However, Sound Management has stated that they intend to break the current lease agreement, asking Night Owl Circus Arts to leave the property in September with 10 months' notice so that Phase 1 of the demolition project can begin. We all know this, and because we know, we have a responsibility to respond in the way that we believe to be helpful and right. We are all responsible for our community. For my part, just as I believe that my church, my seminary, and the hospital are important parts of our community, I believe that Night Owl Circus Arts is an important, life-giving part of our community that this rezoning proposal greatly threatens. NOCA brings together people from all walks of life. You can come to NOCA as you are and be absolutely certain that you will be welcome, accepted, encouraged, and loved. People will take your hands, teach you to dance and twirl, swing, and then one day you're flying. Moreover, they will teach you to love yourself. NOCA isn't only a place of creativity, beauty, and strength, but one of healing. Before every show at NOCA, all the performers and coaches hold hands in a circle backstage, and we make a promise to one another that is not only physical, but metaphorical. We look at each other and say, I will hold you up. I will hold you up. I will hold you up. And tonight, I come before you, humbly asking you to please help hold us up. When and if the time ever comes, I feel comfortable asserting that the people of NOCA will help hold you up as well. This is who we are. And finally, I just want you to know that when I tell people that there is a circus in Johnson City, they are shocked. Moreover, when I tell them that they can join the circus in Johnson City, they are delighted. And with all that in mind, I ask that you delay approval of this zoning request concerning Burlington Park until current allowances or the current leases are fulfilled or allowances for the current businesses in the Burlington Park area are made. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments from anyone else? Please come forward. Sir, I'll get you next.
Rosemary Anderson, 1B Ridgewood Terrace, 37601. I would like to mention the active rail lines actually run contiguous with both the western and the northern boundaries. There are 2 rail lines there. Thank you. Night Owl is the only circus and aerial art studio in the Tri-Cities. It's locally owned and operated business that fosters community and inclusion. It's made up of people who live and work here and who have enriched the cultural tapestry of Northeast Tennessee for the past decade. Aside from the deep personal connections we have to the studio and to each other, Night Owl exemplifies the type of unique local small business that our officials and politicians are always telling us that they want to encourage and bring to the area. 10 months is an extremely short time frame in which to relocate a business with our needs. In that regard, like the last speaker, I would ask that you consider postponing any decisions regarding rezoning until at least the leases have been fulfilled or some other arrangements have been made that are agreeable to all parties. I'd also be really interested to know who the local market advisor is for the development company. I work for a prominent commercial appraiser in Johnson City. We look at and analyze the commercial and multifamily market every single day. We do a greater dollar volume of real estate than probably any other real estate office in the city. For each and every property we consider that local market and analyze it. We're already starting to see pressure in the market and residential rents hitting ceilings that the market can't sustain. Additionally, the area does not have a strong track record for sustaining retail tenants, tends to experience significant turnover, including at least one business on State of Franklin I'm aware of that won't even be lasting a whole year there. And it has a better location and better visibility and access. Considering the adjacent land uses, eventual rezoning may be inevitable. However, to push the existing tenants out in order to appease an out-of-state developer trying to jump on the multifamily development bandwagon seems unwise to me. It would also be a very unfortunate precedent to set for dealing with small local businesses that don't have the financial resources or connections that those large developers have. Especially considering this project is anticipated to take at least 7 to 8 years to complete. I would be interested to know if the developer's absorption rate calculations are based on national or local data, because that would probably be very different. And do they actually know how many apartment units have come online in the city or are slated to come online in the city in the next 5 years? It seems in all probability that before they're even halfway done with the project, we may see an oversaturation of multifamily units in this area. Again, at the very least, I would request that you consider to postpone any rezoning decisions until arrangements have been made to accommodate the current leases in force. By that time, the developer may be looking at very different multifamily market situation than they had initially anticipated, and they may feel differently about pouring a bunch of money into a 7 to 8 year project at that point in time. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Janet, sir, you were next. Please come forward. Yes, sir. Could you remember to give us your name and address, please?
Yeah. I'm Greg Schmidt, SCHMID. I'm the owner of Pike House Coffee Roasters at 2203 McKinley Road, Suite 101. About 2021, the end of there, I met people that were coming into this building to buy the building. They walked into my coffee shop, and as customary, when I see somebody that's new, I introduce myself to them, and they said that they were interested in the building. They began to talk to me about what was going on, and I didn't know nothing about the plans of this. But when 2022 came along, they bought the building, they came back to my coffee shop, they told me everything was going on, and we had issues with the building. They fixed the issues with the building. Whatever the issue was I had, it was fixed. Since then, I've been accused of being a pawn for the people that are redeveloping the business or the building. I've been told that I was put in their pocket, and none of that's true. I'm a business owner. That's all I am, a small business owner. I came to Johnson City from Knoxville, Tennessee to open a coffee shop. I was there for 5 years. I came here, and I've been here 3. I've not been here 10 years, but I've been here 3. Over the past 3 years, I've met a lot of great people that have walked in my coffee shop. One of them is sitting behind me. His name's Jerry Mueller. I'm not here in their pocket, and I don't like being accused of things like that. But I'm here to tell you this. They have come in with a plan. Change is not easy for our city. It's not my city. I grew up in Knoxville, but I'm here because I love the place. Change is not easy, but change is good. And if you go back to one of the slides, you'll also see that that business that's back there, under the current zoning, is not permitted to be there. So I think it's a moot point. I think you need to move forward with the project. Why? Because like I said, it's going to raise a lot of things in our community. It's going to make a lot of things better. It's going to make my coffee shop better. It's going to make 40,000 or 10,000 square feet or 40,000 square feet of retail space. That's tax money. Those are things that we need to look at. Not only that, it's going to bring people into our community. It's going to bring jobs. They were offered a realtor to help them find property. They didn't take that realtor. So if you know the facts about what's really going on here, then you would understand why this project needs to go forward. I don't like being accused of things. One, I'm nothing like that. I'm a human being. I'm a person. I'm here because I wanted to come here and tell you all about my story. In 2020 of August, I came down with COVID. My wife passed away. I moved up here and started a coffee shop, reopened my coffee shop here with $55.12 in my bank account. So Johnson City's home to me now. I still commute some. But I want to thank you all for letting me come up here. And I'm sorry I look like I am. I just walked out of my coffee shop to come here.
You're
Thanks,
always
guys.
welcome.
We appreciate you.
Thank you, sir. All right, the floor is still open. Anyone else to speak to the question in favor or against? Please come forward.
Howdy, how y'all doing today?
All right.
My name is Zared Henry. I live at Spring City Drive, 37604 Johnson City. I didn't come with no facts or anything like that. I just want to come and say, you know, I really support NOCA in this instance. This is not just the demolition of a building. This is stripping Johnson City of a community, a thriving community. And it's just sad to see, and it breaks my heart because I've seen it in other places. I moved around a little bit, and I landed in Johnson City about 3 years ago, and I fell in love with the small town vibe, and I hate to see it go away. So I just implore you to think about that a bit when you go forward with your decisions, and thank you for your time, y'all.
Thank you, Mr. Henry. Next.
My name is Kristen Lance, 313 Courtney Drive in Blunttville. And I am a veterinary technician that works here in Johnson City, and I am a regular patron of Night Owl Circus Arts. And I'm here to speak out about the concerns that I have regarding the Burlington Mills Rezoning and the development that would take place if the rezoning gets approved. A concern that I have is the increase in traffic that would certainly happen with a development of this size, and the preliminary traffic study that estimated a 240% increase in trips to the area. And my concern would be the cause of even more congestion on an already pretty crowded road that leads to Johnson City Medical Center, which is the only level 1 trauma center that we have in the Tri-Cities. The delays that this traffic could cause could be detrimental to any patients who need urgent treatment. Another cause for concern that I had was that the intersection of Walnut and State of Franklin was not included in the preliminary traffic study, which I think that's been spoken about already, that they are going to do even more of a wider area of the traffic study. But the only proposed improvement so far is to extend the right turn lane from Walnut onto State of Franklin, which does not address one of the most dangerous things about the intersection, which is the low visibility coming over the bridge when approaching the intersection from the northwest. The proposed development would also mean the demolition of the buildings that are currently there, which would displace the residents and local businesses that call Burlington Mill home. One of those businesses is obviously very dear to me, and that is Night Owl Circus Arts. On June 1st, 2022, I set foot into Night Owl Circus Arts for the first time. At the time, it just seemed like something fun to do because I had gotten bored on day 2 of my staycation from work, and I definitely didn't expect to fall in love with it the way that I did. Attending classes there regularly has significantly improved both my physical and mental health. Night Owl is so much more than cool things that you can do with your body in midair and on the ground. Night Owl is definitely like a second home and a family to me. The people there are some of the most supportive and encouraging people you could ever meet, both on and off the apparatuses. The rezoning of Burlington Mill and the demolition that would follow would, at the very least, displace this amazing local business. Unfortunately, finding a new location for an aerial circus art studio isn't all that simple, and no one wants to see such an incredible establishment fall through the cracks. Night Owl is a welcoming community for people from all walks of life, and it would be a shame for you to allow Johnson City to lose such a place of diversity and community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anyone else here to speak to the question? Seeing no other hands raised, I'm going to close the floor for public comment. So now the question is now for us to discuss.
Chairman, before you, can I ask Mr. Ryder a question, please? Mr. Ryder, can you just remind us how we make notices to the public regarding a zoning change?
Yes, the notification, the zoning code specifies that we send notification requests to property owners on the property and within 200 feet of the property, a 200-foot radius. The requirements to notify them of the neighborhood meeting. Neighborhood meeting has to be held before the planning commission. There was the possibility that this could have been heard on the December agenda, but because of further studies and trying to do our due diligence, that was delayed. I stated at the neighborhood meeting that it would not be the December meeting, and we were shooting tentatively for January, but to stay tuned to the website and that sort of thing. On January, I actually talked to Mr. Wolf on the telephone. How you doing? Good. And spoke with him and said that it was going to be pushed to February. So there's no requirement for sending out notifications for, that it pertains to the neighborhood meeting and notifications.
Was the property placarded as normal?
Yes, and the property placarded prior to the planning commission meeting, at least one rezoning sign on a public right of way, which we of course did. And then as far as notification for an item being on the agenda, it's 48 hours before the meeting, so it was done 5 days prior. That's correct, yeah, 5 days prior. We would have hit the website on Friday. And then this is not the last public hearing. If this thing moves forward, there'll be 3 readings by the Board of Commissioners, the second one typically being a public hearing. That's required to be posted in the newspaper 15 days prior to a public hearing date for that particular notification. So all the notification requirements were met on this.
Thank you, Mr. Ryer. And can you just, for the benefit of the audience, or the chairman, just the next steps of this project, should it move forward, what happens?
This is a recommending body, of course, as you know. Just again, to reiterate to the all in attendance tonight, that no final decision is made here at the Planning Commission. They were on subdivisions, as we saw earlier, but for a rezoning, it has to be approved by ordinance. It's a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. Then there will be 3 subsequent readings by the Board of Commissioners. If it passes, it will receive 3. It could be stopped at any one of those hearings. So the first hearing is, Board of Commissioners will hear presentation quite like the one that was done tonight. Second one, very similar, with another public hearing like tonight, and then the third would be a final reading. Best, if you look for the first reading, to be the first Thursday of March, I would suspect.
Thank you, Mr. Ryder.
March 7th.
Thank you.
March 7th would be the first possible time it could come before the city commission then?
Yes. I think, not to put him on the spot, but that's what he's paid to do. I think Mr. Todd would have a little more detail on that specific point of the State of Franklin, West Walnut Street intersection.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Initially, it wasn't going to be included in the preliminary traffic study, but it was included in the preliminary traffic study. And there was a recommendation to extend the turn lane back from the State of Franklin about 150 feet. So as the more in-depth study is done, it may be determined that it has to go even further.
All right, any other questions or discussion? So the issue before us is the land use issue, the zoning question for this portion of this property. Mr. Cooper, you look like you're about to say something.
I am. I'm just trying to select my words. Given the fact that we, at least at a level, this community still is in need of affordable housing, and given the fact that at least from what we know now, this is a very quality, it's going to be a very quality development, and in a great location. I mean, it's near the university, it's near the medical center, and it sounds like we don't have all the answers for the infrastructure, but we're headed that way, it sounds like, and it sounds like the developer within limits is committed to doing his share, living up to his share of the responsibility for whatever infrastructure is needed in order to make it a safe location. I think it's I think it's a great addition to our community.
Chairman, I
Yes,
want to
ma'am.
make sure that I'm clear. Based on what Bob has said, without the rezoning, the builder's not going to be able to move forward with any testing or any, I mean, we've literally put a hold on him at this point if we don't move forward with the rezoning. Is that a correct statement or not?
He can't move forward with the plan that's been presented,
Okay,
the concept plan that's been presented, because that is not allowed on the portion that needs to be rezoned.
okay.
He would have to come back with a completely different plan. Is that fair, Mr. Ryder?
And this plan is binding, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think, so I speak for myself certainly, while we're not unsympathetic to Night Owl's predicament at all, this is a land planning commission. That's our purview. That's our fiduciary duty, actually. So with that, I think if there are any issues that Night Owl has with respect to its lease, this is not the venue to resolve lease, to adjudicate leases. That's just not what we do. Building on Bob's point there, I think, the rezoning addresses the existing non-conforming uses. The proposed use is entirely consistent with the surrounding property. It's absolutely in context. I think it's an exciting concept plan, frankly. It's an exciting concept plan that restores areas of the creek, frankly, probably solves rather than creates environmental issues. And this is going to be a significant upgrade, I think, for the immediate neighborhood and for the city as a whole. So, I think with that said, I'd move that we approve move to recommend approval of the request.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to rezone the property, the portion of the property that's in question. Further discussion?
Can I make one other comment?
Yes,
I was
sir.
going to say something very similar. I'm extremely sympathetic to Night Owl and really, quite frankly, the community that you've built down there and all the residents of that facility. But again, that is our charge, is for land use, and it needs to be moved forward tonight. So I'll be voting in support of it.
Any other comments? Ms. Lawrence, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner Bailey?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Commissioner Dutton?
Yes.
Commissioner Rhodey?
Yes.
Commissioner Whitfield?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Oceanbine?
Yes.
Chairman Dagenhart?
Yes.
Motion has carried.
Thank you very much. And I would like to thank the public for coming out and voicing your interest in their community. Thank you for being part of our community. You're always welcome to come speak to us. Seeing nothing else on our agenda, unless someone has a comment or something to point out, I'll call us into adjournment. But I would again remind you, on February 29th at Indian Trail Middle School, there will be a public comment discussion on the growth plan for Johnson City. So please consider attending. Meeting is adjourned.